Fear, self-doubt. That little voice in your head that loves to show up when you're probably chasing something big, right? Whether that's something in your personal life, in your career. But what if you were told there's a way to really just reframe that fear and put it into faith, right? To take the what if this goes wrong and turn it back around to what happens when I win. Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Fit for Business podcast with me, Jarod Lehn. If you're new here, welcome. If this is your second, third, or fifth, or so forth time, thank you again for coming back. I'm the owner of Socialtopia and the newly developed app, Activetopia. Now, first, let's clear one thing up here, right? Fear isn't the enemy, right? Fear is natural and in many ways can be even helpful, right? We've heard that time and time again, and I believe that wholeheartedly. And I think it appears there when there's a potential risk, right? When we're stepping outside of our comfort zone, or when something truly matters to us at the highest stakes, right? That's when that fear comes into our mind. And what I've learned for me over time, the problem isn't fear itself, right? But rather our natural tendencies to expect the worst case scenario. Like, fuck, what if this goes wrong? Or if this doesn't work, then what the fuck happens, right? And that wiring often gets in our way, right? Creating unnecessary roadblocks that hold us back, right? Think about it. How many times have you had a big idea or just a goal, but before you could even take the first step, you were overwhelmed by thoughts of failure? That's fear creeping in, talking, right? It clouds your judgment, shakes your confidence, and in some cases, completely paralyzes you, right? For us entrepreneurs, this can be especially difficult. You're building something from the ground up, taking risks, and at every turn, fear is just waiting to capitalize on your uncertainties. I know it from firsthand. But I got good news for you either way. That negative thought cycle, it's not set in stone, right? It's a pattern you can break, I think, with the right approach. And that's what I want to talk to you guys about here on this episode, right? If you follow anybody like Tony Robbins, who I highly admire, Tony Robbins, what he's accomplished over the past 3+ decades, he profoundly talks about overcoming fear time and time again. I just love his content. He's just so overjoyous and so exuberant. And yeah, he's just amazing to watch speak. I've never been to any one of his live events. I would love to one day. I think it would be so powerful to do that. I've read a couple of his books, and I'm just I wouldn't say I'm a fanboy, but I'm a fan of Tony Robbins. And, so if you've read any of his literature or follow any of his content, he always talks about overcoming fear, right? And overcoming fear, it isn't about eliminating it, right? But try to learn how to manage it so it doesn't take control of your body, right? Because what happens when we get fear, that anxiety, kind of just weighs you down. You can't get anything done. You can't get your to-do list accomplished. You can't tackle the load of laundry. You can't go for that 10-mile bike ride, right? That's fear and anxiety just creeping in on you. And that's exactly, what I want to talk about, here today on this episode. So I want to explore, some practical ways to, if you want to say shift your mindset, try to just overall get more confidence, right? And that's what we need. Confidence will outweigh the fear, and just do what I do best and what you do best as well, hopefully. And that's forge ahead or move forward, being tenacious, having tenacity, and it is whatever you're trying to accomplish, right? So where do we begin, right? I think the key, to moving from fear to faith lies in ability to what we call reframe, right? And again, Tony Robbins talks about reframing all the time. Reframing allows you to change the way you perceive a situation, right? Think about that. By looking at it through a different lens, kind of how I'm looking at this lens in the camera, not to sound cliche, right? But rather than defaulting to worst case scenarios, try and shift your focus to the possibility and its potential. So the the latter, right? Or totally the opposite. What about this great outcome that can happen? This isn't about ignoring risks. It's really about choosing an empowering narrative over a debilitating one, right? I know a lot of people that have these complexities where their mindset debilitates them time and time again, where they say they get in their own head and they know, hey, I'm a failure. I can't do this. I'm not worthy of it. That is a debilitating persona to have time and time and time and time again, where it just fucking pounds you into the pavement until you have nothing left. It's terrible. It takes practice. The rewards are immense. And I never really thought about it really thoroughly until I got older, per se, not to date myself. And I would say I had this mindset back in my 20s. And a lot of it came from being just paralyzed by anxiety and the fear that I potentially, not to sound, silly or anything, because I'm in pretty, knock on wood, good shape when it comes to my physical health. But my mental health was like all fucked up from, basically having my mother pass away at a young age and me finding her body there lying in bed. I think growing up, my parents were very anxious ridden people. Fast forward, again, when I lost my mother and a couple other family members, it just like really shook me stone cold. Right. And that paralyzed me for a long time. The longest of times in my life, my life up until like recently too, I would say, time and time again, we all get stressed out. We all get anxious, but I was like next level. Right. And it takes practice. And it really does take practice. It takes a different mindset, a different shift, right, in how you view things. So this has helped me, right? And that's why I wanted to talk about it. So these are some practical ways, right, to put what I'm saying into perspective, right? Think about a fear that you've been holding on to. Maybe it's launching that new product or pitching if you have investor relations that you're trying to get seed money. Or just showing up consistently, right? Now, in your mind, try to complete this sentence quietly to yourself. What if it doesn't work? We all say that. What if this doesn't work? Then what? I don't know what I'm going to do, right? Take a moment to notice how heavy that thought feels. Let's do it together. What if this doesn't work? That sounds fucking terrible, right? It feels discouraging and overwhelming, right? I think so, just saying it out loud. Let's flip the script. Let's take that same fear and what we call like reframe it, right? By finishing the sentence differently. What if this works? What if this thing actually succeeds? Right? That negativity tone, right, that would cause you anxiety and stress is now, what if this actually works? Right? That's a different shift, right? That spark of hope and possibility. Now, I'm not saying to daydream by any means. That's not what we're talking about. We're just talking about like reframing your persona, your perception. And I think it's really powerful, like how reframing that can disrupt the fear cycle. It shifts your focus from tunnel vision of failure to an open mindset of opportunity, right? I think that technique's helped me, and this simple technique is incredibly potent, right? It's contagious. Instead of being trapped in a cycle of fucking doom and despair, now you're training your mind to see more clear, the bigger picture, right? And I'm going to keep on talking about it, but reframing isn't just about silencing fear, because everybody's always afraid. Everybody's scared. Even the top fucking people of our days, whether it's sports, success in business, politics, everybody has fear, that lingering doubt. But it's what outweighs them, right? It's about creating space for growth, action, and positivity. So think about it. The next time you're fearful or tries to take over, remember this, you have the power to reframe your thoughts and choose a different, more empowering path moving forward, right? So I do this sometimes, right? I follow a simple 3-step process. And I think it's worked for me, right? So to be honest, be real, the first step is recognizing the fear, right? We all know awareness in the sense of this context, it's key. You have to be aware, because if you're not aware, then it's not going to work. When a fearful thought pops into my head, you have to make it a point to catch it, right? Don't ignore it, but kind of cling to it, right? And I found that fear thrives when it goes unchecked, right? If you kind of just, it's like the inevitable. You keep putting something off that needs to get done. And let's say it's putting off, like, I don't know, folding a load of laundry. I have kids, so we have so many different loads of laundry. And any parents that might be listening or watching or do over time have tuned into this podcast. We know, as busy schedules, our busy lives, if we don't have a live-in nanny, we are the nanny, right? Taking care of our children, working full-time, they go to school, and we got to take care of the rest of the shit. But like when we put things off, that can make you anxious as well, right? So what I'm saying is, don't let it go unchecked, right? Give your space to acknowledge, like, hey, I know this thing needs to get done, and I'm going to fucking just do it. That's it. Sometimes I even write it down, because seeing it on paper makes it feel less intimidating. Consider that my like to-do list, if you would, right? Like today I wrote my to-do list. Like, what do I have to do today? I don't have the list in front of me, but like it was like, write the recap script, which I, write and record my recap scripts for Socialtopia, right? Top things I want to talk about related to like social media, context of Socialtopia. Then the Fit for Business podcast script, that's on my to-do list. I have to respond to a couple of client emails. I'm going to get back to that at a certain time. I have to send out paperwork for a new client, get them onboarded. So I have to get that into the calendar. So I have some other things I need to work on. Then I need to work on the app, since we have our MVP, we're in beta. So these are things less intimidating, because now I'm not like constantly thinking like, hey, this needs to get done, that needs to get done. Like, what am I going to do? Like, I'm all over the place. No, I can't be like that. I can't live my life like that, because I would just be like, I can't get shit done. So instead, it's written on paper, and it's less intimidating, because I'm just like, done. Okay, I got this to do. And then if I get all that shit done today, maybe I have time to get more things done. So makes sense for me, at least. It helps me, and that's why I'm talking about it, right? Then I find myself asking, right, what if this doesn't work? I push back by asking, but what if it does? And I like to go deeper, right? I challenge myself to think about worst case scenarios. I do that a lot, actually. I think about worst case scenarios all the time, because it's the absolute worst fucking thing that can happen in my life, whether it's business or personal. I think about that. I think I heard like Gary Vee talk about this many years ago. And I was like, man, I do that too sometimes, because then it makes you appreciate things more in life, right? But like, what's the worst absolute thing that could happen here? How can I handle it? Almost every time I realize that when it happens, if the worst happens, I'm capable of bouncing back, right? The question, process puts me back in the driver's seat, as I say, shifting from fear, something paralyzing, to something more manageable, right? And again, for me, once I've done that, I'm able to focus on action, because action is the antidote to fear, right? Taking the smallest steps breaks that paralysis, right? Let's just face it. Just the smallest step can break that from happening, right? Fear tends to grow when I think I'm stuck, right? When you're stuck, right? But if you keep moving, momentum builds, and that fear tends to dissipate and goes away. And I find it easier to lean toward faith instead of doubt, right? I remind myself it's not about scaling the entire mountain in one day. It's just not going to fucking happen. It's about taking one step over the next step, trusting that every step is progress. That's what we want, progress. And along the way, I make it a point to celebrate small wins, small fucking wins. Every now and then I get a big win, which I'm forever thankful for. But the small wins are big wins too, right? Those moments, no matter how tiny and how minute they are, they're proofs in the pudding that you're putting one foot in front of the other and moving forward, right? That reminds me that progress is happening, and that's fuel for leaning further into a faith-driven mindset, right? Faith meaning, and I'm not going down the rabbit hole of faith. When I'm talking about faith in this case, I'm talking about faith I have put upon myself to entrust that this is going to happen, right? And this process, for me, has shifted my perspective countless times. I can get in a rut too. When it's a rainy day, I'm human. Like, rainy days are making me glum too. Like, what can I say? But sometimes I still got to wake up. I still got to go about my day. Am I going to go outside and work out? Am I going to stay inside of my workout? Am I going to work? Am I going to walk my dog? I got to get my kids to school still. Like, life cannot stop because it's not sunny and blue skies out, right? And I hope my perspective helps you at some point in time. And that's what you need to do. And that's where the reframing comes to perspective, right? And this is the challenge. I want to put this out to you this week. The next time fear speaks, right? It sneaks in, it speaks, it whispers, right? We know what I'm talking about. If this doesn't work in your ear, I want you to flip the script, right? Don't let that be the end of the story. Instead, pause, take a step back, and decide, how can I reframe this? Ask yourself, oh shit, what if this works? What if this ends up succeeding beyond anything I could have imagined? Again, I'm not saying to daydream and go up on random tangents of you living on a fucking big ass yacht like Jeff Bezos. That's not what we're talking about. Just shift the mindset, though, is what we're saying. Instead of failing, thinking about succeeding. And I think that shift will help you and can change your perspective. So you'd be one shy away of having a panic attack. And hopefully that's not you, right? I know from experience that it's easier said than done, right? Time and time again, this little mindset tweak, I think it can help you create massive changes. It's helped me. It's all about taking control of fear, right? And leaning into possibility. That's it. For me, every time I ask, what if this works? It initially changes my thought process. Listen, I was having a fucking horrible day the other day. I'll be frank, and it's great that I have people that I can turn to, not even like business related, just like clutch friends that are like family. They're like, I could call at fucking 3 a.m. no matter what. They may not pick up, but they'll call me right back or text me like, yo, everything all right? But like, having a tough day, people were just pissing me off, and I had to like blow off some steam. So I'm thankful I have that in my life. And then, I had to like take a step back, wake up the next day refreshed, flip the script, and it was good. And it's just, I have off days too, because what I'm saying is like, it opens the door to excitement and opportunity instead of just shutting down with doubt and worry, right? So for me, every time I ask, what if this works? Again, it flips a switch in my head. It opens the door to excitement and opportunity instead of just shutting everything down without doubt and worry, right? So here's, a little lesson for you to help reframe it. I want you to try and do this. If you're feeling stuck, maybe it will work for you. Maybe it won't. Let me know. And don't hesitate to reach out, respond to this video on YouTube, shoot me a DM or tag me on Instagram. I want to hear your stories. That's what it's all about. Good, bad, and indifferent. Tell me how you're tackling your fears head on and fucking reframing them into something more empowering. Share your wins, no matter how small, because let's face it, every little step counts and it helps, right? All I want is everybody to win. That's it. Seeing how others face their fears and chase their dreams, to me, is like inspiring. I love to hear it. I love to be a part of the journey. And I believe in everybody. Just like I believe in myself, I believe in you. You got this. And I can't wait to hear how you're crushing doubts and building something extraordinary, whatever that may be for you. So take that chance. Take the first step, no matter how fucking small, and start rewriting the narrative, right? Fear is trying to tell you. Well, that's what we got for you guys on this week of the episode of the Fit for Business podcast. We hope you enjoyed. If you're not already, do us a favor and tap on that subscribe button here on YouTube. And as always, if you're listening to on Spotify and you're not following us, go ahead and do so. We'll see you next week.